I'm going to call this meeting of the Appointments and Ordinances Committee of the Greenfield City Council to order. The meeting is being recorded, and if any other person present is recording the meeting, please let me know. Okay. And we will have all roll call votes. So we have member online. Okay, I'm going to do a roll call. And so just there, you see like the first one. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm going to do a roll call of members. Councillor Gordon.
Here.
Councillor Garrett.
I am here.
Councillor Golub is here. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes from March 12th, 2025?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion about the minutes? Okay. So I will take a roll call vote.
Okay.
So we'll just keep
Do
doing
it.
in the same column.
Okay, so I just make another column.
Yeah.
And I say minutes.
That's right. That's
Okay.
what we've been doing. Councillor Gordon,
Yes.
Councillor Garrett,
Yes.
Councillor Golub. Yes. Okay, I am going to open public comments. And if you are online and wanting to give public comment, please put your name and your city of residence in the chat. We do not have any public comment here
Nothing in
in
the chat.
person. There's nothing in the chat. Okay. So then I will,
Okay.
okay, great.
Okay.
Garth? Can you also state your last name when you speak, please? And I am going to time it for 3 minutes. 1 moment. All right. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Garth Cheneyfelt, 26 Grinnell Street, Greenfield, Mass. I'm just checking into I know you're looking over all the ordinances and such, and I had sent a proposed ordinance. It was the Cambridge, Massachusetts ordinance to ban gas-powered leaf blowers for health reasons, for noise reasons, for all the reasons that we don't like leaf blowers. So I'd sent those in. I realize a lot of my neighbors have done petitions and sent in stuff, and like I don't know if they're going to then force it to a vote this November. I think that's a horrific way to do any sort of governance. So I would hope that the Appointments and Ordinances Committee can maybe take a look at this as an item to maybe push forward. I know there's some folks in P7 that are frustrated with the increased activity at the fairgrounds, and they're looking at a noise ordinance. I would see this as separate from the noise ordinance, partially because noise ordinances end up being really hard to enforce, whereas this is a very specific thing. It's there's tons of cities that have managed to do this successfully. Even in Massachusetts, wealthier communities, non-wealthy communities, Newton, Cambridge, Somerville, all have sort of sane things around, leaf blowers and, blowing, frankly, like mouse shit and debris into the air, in addition to, just creating a nuisance to people who are either working from home or work different shifts or trying to just live their lives. So yeah, I just wanted to chime in with that, and thank you for all your work. I know it's grueling and way too long, and I appreciate all you do. Thank you.
Anyone else online wanting to give public comment before we open the public hearing? Okay, I'll say one thing before we open the public hearing, which I had gotten into a practice a bit when I started chairing a year and a half ago. But I haven't said it recently, that we have agreed just as a basic practice as a committee to ask residents to find a sponsor on city council for an ordinance who will champion it and help steward it through with them. And so I encourage you, Garth, and residents who are wanting to bring forth an ordinance to do that as a first step, to find someone on council who shares that commitment and wants to help it get through. Thanks. And now I'm going to open up the public hearing. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm going to scroll down and see if there's specific language. I don't think, yep, there is. It's right there. Okay. So in accordance with Home Rule Charter, the Greenfield Appointments and Ordinances Committee will hold a public hearing and I think this is an announcement, but I'm just going to read most of it to make this official. We are holding a public hearing today. I will open up the public hearing at 6:42. It's being held at the Greenfield City Hall meeting room, the second floor, and on Zoom. We're holding it to receive public input on the following ordinances. First is to amend Code Chapter 372 Solid Waste language to align with the city's automated single stream recycling program. And the second is to amend the code by adding new Chapter 156 Opioid Use and Prevention Commission under Part 2 Boards, Commissions, Committees, and other governing bodies. To view the complete amendments, you can open up the full agenda. And we may consider the same on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025 at 6:30 at the John Zahn Community Center and on Zoom. Great. Please write your name, Stephanie, in the chat along with your city of residence. Great, thank you. Yeah, Stephanie Duclos.
Actually, I had a procedural question. I was just wondering if this is the only public hearing on both of these matters, or is there also a public hearing on the at the city council meeting? Because I wasn't clear on what you just said. And then I do want to make a comment because I did have a question. I know you guys can't answer questions, but
I can answer
there's
that.
some stuff in bold. So
Yep. Can you let Whit in? This is the one, just so it's clear for everyone, this is the only public hearing where we are required by law to have a public hearing on every ordinance. We may consider taking up the ordinance in a week from now. Would you like to give public comment on the hearing, part of the hearing? You can go ahead. Your name is already in the chat. Stephanie?
hi, yes, I wanted to speak to the opioid settlement ordinance, and I noticed there was some language in bold that concerns me, and I would probably ask clarification for the approval from a mayor. I was trying to read it really quick in the agenda before the meeting started, but it's a lot to take in. And I wanted to know, I know there was some discussion at another meeting that it was going to be vetted by the attorney, and I hope that that has happened so that maybe we can get an explanation of what the oversight is and what control the city has, as well as the mayor. Thanks.
Anyone else for public hearing? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing at 6:45 PM. I just scroll back. Okay. Would someone like to read the motion you know what, you're doing that, you're online, I will read the motion. Just need to scroll down to it.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Order number fiscal year 25093. The city council moved that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council pursuant to Charter Section 210 affirms the following appointments and reappointments by the mayor. Greenfield Local Cultural Council, Bella Lavavi, term to expire December 31st, 2028. And Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee, Martin Bram Moranis, term to expire December 31st, 2028. Majority vote required.
Second.
Any discussion on these besides our sincere gratitude to people for serving?
Yeah, mostly gratitude.
Gratitude, yep. Yeah. Okay. So we'll put this to a vote, a roll call.
Let's call this appointment.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett.
Yes.
Counselor Golub, yes. Okay. Now. Yeah, I just scrolled for folks who are following along. I just scrolled to page 13 in the agenda. And would you like to read that?
Sure. Order number FY 25083, that the city council move that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council amends the code of the city of Greenfield by adding to Part 2, boards, commissions, committees, and other governing bodies, Chapter 156, opioid use and prevention commission as attached hereto, and further amends the table of contents and index of the contents of the code, and further that non-substantive changes in the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield, majority vote required. And an updated ordinance language was submitted by Councilor Bullock on March 26, 2025 on the sheet.
Okay. All right. So I want to just address what was said in the public hearing. One is that I believe the bold language, when we put this forward to the city council, I will ask that the bold language be unbolded, because I think that that was for our ease of reading to see the parts that we had requested to be amended and the edits that were made. And so that's what that means. And they will not be, I'm going to make a note to ask Kathy to just take them out of bold. Yes, it was vetted by the attorney. And I would ask that we're not going to be able to go into it now. The oversight by the mayor, I honestly didn't 100% understand the question, so I would just request that that question be sent in right away, because unless you two understood the question about oversight by the mayor, like I want that question to be answered, but I think it's pretty clear, and then I don't know what else would need to be clearer. Do you have thoughts about that?
The way I took that question was just
Okay.
general, is this money going to be spent in an appropriate way? And what's in this ordinance that makes it so it's going to be spent for the appropriate uses? That's at least how I understood it.
Okay,
I think that's what she meant by oversight.
okay, that would make sense.
So,
I don't want to set a precedent of
Yeah.
opening up a discussion. No, can you?
Just point of clarification, if you would recognize me.
Stephanie, I don't want to set a precedent to open it up, and I invite questions before the meeting so that we have them, but I don't want to set that precedent.
Well, I'll
I-
just say it anyways. You can.
Can you mute her?
I did.
I will request that members of the public send their questions it's a strange thing to navigate as the chair. At the one hand, I want to hear from people and have there be a dialogue. On the other hand, I don't want to set a precedent of having a back and forth that we haven't invited as part of the agenda. And so I hear this question about oversight from the mayor, and I
mean, I guess, how do you want to go through this? We had Counselor Bullock here last time, kind of
Right,
going
and
through
I
the
was-
ordinance.
hoping she, yeah.
Yeah, but we have it in front of us with the changes, and I know we got sent another version. This version with the red outline is the most recent.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that was actually from me.
That's
So
from
this is
you.
a separate thing. I'm just like,
So this is separate. from
this is separate from this question of the oversight.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would invite people to read the ordinance, and if you have follow-up questions, to send them in as soon as possible. Is there anything that either of you want to say to that topic?
I'm just going to glance through this and look for the oversight pieces and just.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. I mean, I think that let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
You say? And I think that in terms of oversight, the main purpose of this committee is to provide recommendations. Like, if you look at section 3, studying the opioid crisis, of advising the mayor, city council, and public safety commission, recommending a comprehensive abatement strategy, annually making recommendations, engaging with citizens. Those are things that the commission shall do. And then there's two things, again, down below, making recommendations based on information gathered from the community. And they may administer, oversee, provide guidance and support for opioid or substance use programs and initiatives subject to agreement by the mayor and the commission. So I take this to mean, under their duties and responsibilities, there's nothing that they're just doing without consultation and agreement from the mayor.
Yeah, I was going to highlight section 3, part B as well. Like, that was the part that really struck me. Like, they have to have the mayor agree before they can do anything with money, which I think is getting right at the heart of oversight.
Right.
So-
Yeah, I hope this answers the question. Councilor Gordon, is there anything that you would like to add to this conversation?
No,
Okay.
that's how I read it as well.
Okay. I did send in, in reading this through, this is not changing the substance of the ordinance, but the who was appointed, it was not exactly clear. And so I just wanted to clarify it so there was no question around who would be on the commission. And so I sent in an amendment. There are copies for people from the community, if you'd like to see them, they're here so that people could read them here. They will be in the packet before this is passed by city council. But I would like to, just so that people who can't see it can follow auditorily. I made it just very clear in line B, the commission shall have 7 voting members appointed by the mayor. C, 5 members will have opioid or substance use disorder experience, including 1 individual from an organization providing harm reduction services, 1 individual from a peer recovery support center, 2 individuals with lived or living experience with opioid and substance use disorder, and 1 family member impacted by opioid and substance use. The next line will read, this is what I'm proposing as an amendment. The next line is, additionally, the director of the Board of Health or their designee and the director of the Department of Community and Economic Development or their designee shall be voting members. The mayor or the mayor's designee shall be a non-voting member. And then the next line will read, based on the needs of appointees, 5 members shall be appointed for 3-year terms and 2 shall be appointed for 2-year terms. then the next line will read the same.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you doing this. I think it's a lot clearer.
Yeah,
The very, very, very minor thing, it just, I think we have an extra letter.
where's that?
The D has the language to the right of it is crossed out, but then it continues with E next.
So we delete D.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And that's the only thing right there. But I appreciate you clarifying, because I know that's something we had talked about. Was it 2 months ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 months ago, because you were sick, I think, last month.
yeah,
Yeah, and we didn't have a quorum, so.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I thank you for doing this.
Sure, yeah. So I'm going to make a motion for simplicity's sake, the motion that I'm making is to strike the current language in, instead of going line by line, to, to strike the current language in section 1 and to replace it with the amended language that was sent in to the clerk's office that is on this paper here, and that will be able to be read in the packet before we vote and make this a official entity.
Okay.
Yeah, can I have a second?
Second,
Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
the only thing is that letter D.
Okay. I will include striking
I know, it's so.
the letter D.
I got him,
Okay.
doing my job.
Well, there will be a letter D. It'll just
Yeah,
be a rearrangement of
Yeah.
letters. Yes. Okay. Any discussion? Okay. So we'll take a roll call vote on this. Counselor Gordon, on the amendment. Counselor
Yes.
Gordon? Okay, Counselor Garrett?
yes.
Counselor Golub? Yes. Okay. Any other discussion on the main now amended motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So under the organization administration section, I had these concerns a couple months ago. I mean, so section C with the annual stipend of $3,000, I think it's going to get a lot of raised eyebrows, but we had that discussion a couple months ago. I know it's coming from the abatement funds, and I appreciate it being written out specifically. And the part about employees, so that's, I'm confident that will be a lot of discussion when we bring this to the floor, but that's okay. The parts that I have actual concerns about, and I think potentially could be changed, are E and F on the next page. So I'm concerned about an unfunded mandate. So it mentions the city shall have adequate municipal administrative support, including but not limited to the provision of clerical staffing, utilization of municipal space and resources. And then the next one is the city shall provide training and orientation for new member. And it has like this list of things that I think are really great. But again, it's an unfunded mandate. And so it's, you have the city council, we have trainings we're supposed to be doing, and they don't end up happening. And I don't, one of our focuses as an ordinance review is why don't things happen? And a lot of times it's because there's not funding.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate the sentiment behind these. I would be comfortable if it was like the health director rather than the city or something like that. Somebody, Michael, that's his name, Michael Thoreau, right? He's very, very, passionate about the project, and he had, I know, a hand in this. I don't want to volunteer him without speaking to him, but I'm thinking like, is this going to end up on the city clerk's office?
Yeah.
When they are buried all the time with things? I don't think we should do unfunded mandate, basically. If we're gonna provide something to a committee, I would love there to be dedicated revenue for the hours of the people that were doing the work. I'm mindful of that, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have other thoughts about that. It's just, again, the shalls and that this has to happen.
Yeah.
And that worries me.
Okay. Counselor Gordon?
I wish that Counselor Bullock was here because I think that she could probably speak to this a lot better than any of us can. I think I read it a little bit differently than Counselor Garrett, although I completely agree that unfunded mandates are a problem and we should avoid them wherever possible. I mean, my sense of this is there's a difference between like what we wish that training consisted of and what it probably basically has to consist of by law. And I think that this refers to something that probably basically has to happen by law. But like when we first joined council, there was like 45-minute training after our first meeting, and we got a packet saying, here's open meeting law, here's some rules of procedure. I think that's the training this refers to. I could be wrong. And I think like at a very basic level, it's about, we have to provide, like if it's going to be a public body, we have to provide them a basic level of information about the rules that they have to follow. I think there's a bigger question here about how any city body and people who serve the city are trained, and the resources that they get. But I think that at a basic level, it's not actually going to be a burden on the clerk's office to provide this, because it probably will be the same thing that the council got, which was pretty basic, which is not a criticism of the clerk's office at all when I say that. And I would be a little hesitant about trying to get any more specific than that, partly because I don't think that the specifications for training are more specific or in depth than that for any other city body, including the city council. So I also don't want to create a disparity in terms of what we are, sort of demand in terms of training for this commission versus others.
Mhm. I mean, that makes sense. It does, it's just, again, I guess maybe just focusing on the provision of clerical staffing. That is not something provided, like we have Tammy, who is fantastic and is, does a full-time job supporting, our 13-member body. And so to say the provision of clerical staffing, like, who is that person? Who are those people? Like who is going to be the clerical staff? Utilization of municipal space and resources totally makes sense. I think that's absolutely fair. And municipal administrative support, that could be something as simple as, they're hosting the meeting agendas on the website and things like that. That could be fulfilled pretty easily. It's just, again, this including but not limited to, this is saying there has to be clerical staffing. And to me, I read that as a person has to be doing the job of, I'm not sure specifically what, and so I don't know. I hear what you're saying, and you're probably right about it not being as heavy of a lift as I'm reading this as, but I also am looking at the language and it looks black and white, like they're gonna need to have a person whose job it is to take care of them, for lack of a better phrase, which I want them to have, but it's just like, who is that gonna be? And is it gonna be Tammy or Kathy or Quinn, does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, I'm curious what you're thinking first, Councilor Gordon.
Yeah, I totally hear you on that. And I think I haven't, read through the establishment documentation of lots of other commissions and committees,
Right.
but from what I have seen, I think that this is pretty standard language, and is not as heavy a lift as you're imagining that it might be. Councilor Garrett, I think that and again, this is my sense, and I cannot actually back this up right now. So it's a good question, I think, probably to raise at council when Councilor Bullock will be there.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think that it's pretty standard language, just in terms of like someone at the city will need to send out the emails saying, and post the meetings. Like that's the
Right.
kind of clerical staffing that's required. And I don't believe that it would likely be more than that. But it's worth clarifying before we actually vote this thing into existence.
Yeah, I wrote down the question, what is standard? I feel like I'm learning new things all the time about the way the city works. And this is a very honest question. And feel free to say no if I'm wondering if you have the bandwidth in the next couple of days to peruse the other body's language and just see how this compares to others. If you're like, hello.
I would rather not, to be perfectly honest, but I certainly can. I gotta, I could try to look something up now, I suppose.
I mean, we could take a 5-minute study break and look at the other ordinance.
That might be enough to just figure this out. If this is
Yeah.
boilerplate, I got no problem
Yeah.
with it. If it's, a kind of
All
bespoke
right,
thing.
everyone, we're going to have a moment of education about how our boards and commissions work. And we're going to, and invite anyone and everyone who would like to join us to open up. I would Google Greenfield MAE code, that's what I always do. And then you'll see on the left that our ordinances are broken up into about 4 categories, bolded categories. So if we look under boards, commissions, committees, and other bodies, we will see most of our bodies listed there. So let's just like, I'll go from the bottom up, if you want, like one of you wants to go in the middle and one of you wants to go in the top. Yeah.
See if we give the rec commission. Yeah.
Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee doesn't have anything.
It does the rec commission.
What's that?
Neither does the rec commission.
Okay, I'm looking at redevelopment.
Or is it the planning board?
Not the redevelopment authority. Okay, I'll go to Human Rights Commission.
The Council on Aging says the council may appoint such clerks and employees as it may require, subject to the appropriation therefore.
Such fancy language.
It just means if there's money, they'll do it.
Yeah.
So like if we had that in there, subject to appropriation,
Okay,
I'm good. Like if we're, again, if there's money for it, great. But I just don't want to, again, create a disparate situation there.
yeah, it's not listed. Some of these are very sparse.
Under the Parking and Traffic Commission, the mayor should provide adequate municipal administrative support to facilitate the mission of the commission. So this one does have similar language about municipal support.
Okay. I mean, if they think, I agree that that's important. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I looked at agriculture. I think I just looked at cemeteries very brief. No, cemetery.
Historical Commission doesn't have it.
No, human rights doesn't. Okay, so I mean, if they, one option is to say subject to appropriation,
That works.
but I just imagine that not happening. If they believe that this is really important, which I would say it is. I mean, the director of the Board of Health and the director or their designee and the director of the Department of Economic Development or their designee are members. So, I mean, we could suggest an amendment saying that the public health or economic development departments shall offer this support. But yeah, your face is like, that's.
My face
Made me
is not a poker face.
No, it's okay.
I would be
But-
concerned about us like I think this feels too in the weeds to me, to be honest.
Okay, sure.
I would be concerned about us making a decision, especially on this committee, since none of us was involved in the creation of
Okay.
this proposal. And I know that folks have worked really hard to put this together, over a long period of time. I would be concerned about us making decisions about who we think should be providing XYZ thing. Like, to me, that's actually something that it does make more sense for the city to figure out where the necessary staff time has to come from. And again, I am not concerned about that staff time being a really heavy lift. And in a way, I think I would be like looking at a lot of these other ordinances that created commissions, they are really slim. And it's maybe equally worrisome to me when like there are a lot of things that, people do need training and there is someone that has to post the public meetings and all of that. And if it's not designated at all, who might do that, then that is something that, I think can be more problematic than if it just says like the city will provide the clerical support to make sure those things happen.
I can say just anecdotally from when we worked on the hybrid meeting ordinance, like that expectation is like when we worked with Matthew, he was just like, yeah, everyone has a staffer from a different department and that's just that schedules for them and that's what's expected. So do you feel comfortable? I think you just said a minute ago, if we just add a comma to each of these lines saying subject to appropriation?
Yeah, and I also think that Councilor Gordon's right that you didn't say this specifically, but discussing this in the full council, I don't think is a bad idea either, even with just like the caveat that this is something we want to look more at.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to, this is the public hearing. If we don't vote on this at this May's meeting, well, I suppose it could be put off further, but this is not something we want to put off.
No, we don't.
You know, the money isn't going to be dispersed until this commission exists.
Yeah,
And so like, I'm really interested in seeing the commission
too.
exist, but I also didn't want to not express that thoughts, you know?
yeah,
So yeah, no, if it said subject to appropriation or subject to feasibility or something less weakening that did the same job of providing some flexibility, you know, I think that would be good. But I think Councilor Gordon's right in the sense that it would be ideal if everyone had administrative support, you know, like I've been on other committees in the city and they don't do things the same way we do. And, you know, maybe they should, you know, that kind of thing. So the ideal is always the ideal, and we may not be able to achieve it, I guess, based on resources.
Okay.
As far as support is concerned, you know, that's
Okay.
what I'm kind of
Yeah.
getting at.
yep, okay. Counselor Gordon?
Yeah, I think that all makes sense to me. I was just noticing that the Parking and Traffic Commission actually has very similar
Yeah.
language on, sorry
Yeah.
if you said that before, yeah.
No, it's okay.
That the planning board also has some language on clerical support. So
Right.
yeah, I don't think it's too far out of whack.
No.
Given that we have named 3 guiding principles, equity, expense, and enforceability, and we want to make sure that what we are passing is as enforceable as possible, I would be amenable to adding the word subject to feasibility to each of these lines. Like, I think that it's like, we're wanting to make things as enforceable as possible, but not saying something shall happen if it can't.
I like that better than subject to appropriation,
Me too.
you know, because you can choose to not appropriate money for any reason. Feasibility is something like this commission, if it was being hamstrung by a mayor who didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
We will say, hey, it's feasible,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
I think probably better.
Yeah, and it's more expensive of a term, I think. Counselor Gordon, big gig.
Yeah, I think, yeah, the subject to appropriation, I think would be more problematic language because that I don't think is in any other ordinance creating a commission, which would suggest that appropriation might be necessary in this case when it's not in
fair.
any other cases. I think that could
Right.
actually create more problems than it solves.
Well,
So something that's looser than that, I think, is safer.
Okay.
The feasibility language seems fine to me.
Works for me.
Okay, would you like to make a propose an amendment?
I'd like to move to amend Section 2, Organization Administration, subsections E and F by adding a comma to the end of both sections. And the words subject to feasibility.
I'm gonna write that down before we vote on it, so Tim can track that. I'll second that motion.
Section 2, E and F.
Okay. Any discussion on this motion? Further discussion?
Thank you for listening to my esoteric concerns.
No, it's important. Enforceability. Okay. So we'll take a roll call vote. Counselor Gordon,
Sure.
Counselor Garrett,
Why not? Yes.
Counselor Golub, yes. Any other discussion on the main motion now as amended?
I'll just say on the main motion, I'm so glad this is happening. I know that there's been so much work that's been put into putting this together and really thinking through everything that we want this commission to accomplish and that we need this commission to accomplish and how to make it, you know, an equitable process and equitable makeup. And I really appreciate it. And I really am glad that the stipend language is in there and that it's been refined a bit, you know, based on the questions that we ask. But I think that I hope thinking ahead to how some of those discussions of the stipend specifically might go, the undervaluing of other people who are serving the city on various boards and commissions is not a good reason to me to not pay the folks on this commission for the hard work and difficult work that they're going to be doing, particularly given, the communities that they represent and the need to value people's time and the sacrifices that people are often making to serve on these kinds of commissions. So I'm fully in support of the stipend, and I'm very much in support of the creation of this commission.
I think it will be helpful if the health director can come and speak to that provision in particular. He spoke to us, I think, in a very cogent way
Yeah.
about this, and Councilor Bullock will obviously as well.
Yeah,
But if he can be invited to speak to this, I think that will go a long way in assuaging some concerns about that. And there is a whole discussion about the undervaluing of public service as far as the stipends,
yeah.
that the city should have, but this is not the time.
Agreed. I want to specifically thank Stephanie Duclos because something about this, I forget exactly how this first came. Like a year ago, there was going to be a decision around the appropriation, and it was the email from Stephanie that alerted me to this and got me thinking about this. And I haven't been like intimately involved in this, but I'm really grateful for that, for being flagged about it. And right when we were about to vote on it, and the importance, really the significance and the importance of making sure that these funds are, that the decisions about these funds are really informed by people with lived experience. It's incredibly important. So I'm really grateful for that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. We ready for a roll call vote? Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Garrett?
Yes.
Counselor Bullock? Yes. All right. Now we can move on to solid waste. Very exciting. Okay. And I will read this motion. Order number fiscal year 25084, the city council move that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council amends the code of the City of Greenfield, Chapter 372, Solid Waste, as attached hereto as Exhibit A, and further amends the index of the code, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the City of Greenfield. Majority vote required.
Second.
You had said that there was an amendment.
I have a couple of typos and it had been short.
Okay,
You want
would you like to join us? Yeah, you can both come over to the table. Yeah. We're gonna, oh, is it here? Yes, it is.
Typos. Typos.
Yes.
Okay, page 2.
I'm looking at it from page 17.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have.
You don't have that. Okay.
So the second
We
page
will
of the
ask-
ordinance.
Yeah.
You can give us a section, maybe helpful.
Oh, it's under the definitions.
Yeah.
Section 3. Under bulky waste,
Yeah.
there's just an extra space on the third line.
Before cut,
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I don't know how that got in there.
you can write these down to give to Karen. Is that right? You have can you write that? And like reference it there so that she knows.
Okay. So
Does that work?
on the solid waste.
I just want to say that I appreciate this correction so much as a anal copy editor. Thank you.
Yeah, I should have caught him earlier. Sorry, I've been through this
Really well
so
written.
many times. On the definitions, going down to post-consumer recyclables, there's just a weird space between plastic containers and bottles. And I'm assuming someone like the clerk's office will go through and kind of regulate these things, but I don't know.
Would you mind repeating that? I'm sorry, that's random.
I'm sure it's under post-consumer,
Here.
under
Okay.
plastic containers.
Yeah,
and
it's-
there's
It's a double
weird
space. Yep.
Yep.
Moving on to Article 2, number 8, single stream recycling. Under plastic, there's a period after flower pots. There should not be a period after flower pots. I really hate that one.
I have to ask you to say it again.
Yeah. we need-
I'm sure under, number 8, under plastic, under acceptable materials. It's 372-8, number single stream
Either
recycling,
paper, glass, plastic, or
under
metal.
plastic.
Okay, plastic.
Plastic, got it.
Yep. And at the last, under
Okay.
flower pots, there's a period that shouldn't be there.
Okay. After the period, plastic, after just that.
After the
Yes,
rinsed
sentence.
flower pots, there should not be a period there.
I see the word flower pot. No
So
period
that
there.
There's a period.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you.
So I'm gonna say page 23.
And then on 372-9, the next section, recycling collection carts. On the fourth sentence, beginning with first paragraph, fourth sentence, beginning with residents, that should say an additional 95-gallon cart, and in parentheses an S, because they can get more than one cart.
Oh.
More than one additional.
Yeah,
My
so,
inner copy editor is also really enjoying.
yeah, no, I'm sorry, I should have put that in the beginning, but you know, you
Please
read
don't
it
apologize.
about 1,000 times,
It's
so.
really well written.
My song here is continually,
All right,
say
so,
it one more time.
I will. It's
Yeah.
on page 23.
23.
On page.
Yep.
372-9.
Yep.
That like the last long line, like the.
95-gallon cart one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Residents may
95
purchase.
gallon cart,
Yep.
and then add an S in parentheses after cart.
The carts.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. So 372-9. After 95-gallon carts.
Cart, and there should be a S in
Yes,
parentheses.
thank you.
Cool.
Super recyclers.
Where it's super.
Love you, just kidding. Going down that same section, 37-11. Storage and placement of recycling collection carts. First sentence, carts shall be stored in a secure place at the residential service unit, not that. I didn't mean that be that specific.
You got that?
Yep.
You got that? Okay.
Percent.
Okay, cool.
That's, hold on.
All right, next, same section, 372-15.
Okay.
This is the big one. Recycling cart inspection and cart tagging. The second paragraph, the very last sentence, I think should end at the period there. After violation of this ordinance, there should be a period, and the punishable by fine should be stricken,
Yes,
removed.
Right, because that was.
Because
because we discussed the fines and how,
Change
Yeah.
that section, and
so we're kind
I
of contradicting what we changed. on
Yes.
everything else.
so I apologize, because I should have gone back
I
and
appreciate
changed
it.
that.
You don't need to
and-
apologize anymore. This is
Yeah,
great.
well, I should have.
Move the first-
Yeah,
Let me just get the
Okay.
second graph.
okay,
Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
yes.
I
Thank you
hope
very
Tammy
much.
can read my chicken scratch.
It's,
Very last line.
She can call me if she needs assistance. Okay, so moving on to, Article 3. Section. 372-25 prohibited wastes. And we're gonna go down the alphabet there to T, mattresses. There should be a period after that. After that sentence.
So it's
So down to,
225.
yeah, and then go down to mattresses, letter T.
Okay.
And there should be a period there.
Add period and
Yep.
this.
And then
Continued. Back.
move on to Article 5, transfer station. Under 37-2-42, authority of attendance.
37-2-42.
Yep, there's a weird font thing going on there, like it's it's
like-
smaller than the rest of the font.
11 rather than.
Yeah, than 12.
Right, fix a weird thought.
She's probably gonna change the font anyway to,
12. On the font.
yeah, it just bothers them.
Yeah, this is what I mean about administrative support being intensive, you know, and say.
Yeah.
Okay, Article 7. On the 37-2-58, the first section, like the fifth or sixth line, there's a space after this authority is deemed necessary by the DPW director. And there's this incorrect space there.
Double space, triple
Yeah.
space.
Oh, I see it.
I mean, it should be explanation points with the DPW director. Well, bold.
I like her.
Yeah, that.
Like I need the additional attention.
We'll give you a sticker.
Go through.
Again, administrative.
And that's it on my part.
Extra space, mid-paragraph.
It is beautifully written. I mean, when laws are written in such like incomprehensible passive tense, like this, people will know what to do if they read
Yeah.
the law.
Thank you. I was rereading, it's like, wow, I did a pretty good job. on this.
Like you actually did a really good job.
And it's not worded in all kinds of different jargon.
Right. Thou shalt.
Layman's terms, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. This is
Um,
how I like my laws.
yeah, me too.
It's because we're not lawyers.
Yeah.
Which is honestly.
Although I could use a pay raise. to-
Whenever I do policies out of the ordinances, I do it this way. It's-
It's good to be comprehensive.
That makes a lot of sense.
Your turn.
Yeah, this is what I said everything I needed to last time. I asked my questions. This looked great.
Did we get all
You didn't have it, you
Councilor
didn't?
Gordon's
Have
corrections?
it.
Did we already get them?
Every single one.
Oh,
I'm so happy.
Good.
Yeah, is there any discussion besides, you know, we had a pretty thorough discussion of it last time. Is there any other discussion?
I just also appreciate the way this is written. I think it's really clear and comprehensive.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the carts rolling out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Is any other discussion?
I think Stephanie had her hand up. She-
No, I don't call on.
Okay.
And as you know, I was invited to city council this month
Yeah.
to speak about, I forget how it's worded, stuff in the department or probably important things, or however that's worded.
Spotlight, I don't know what.
Yeah, so just a couple of things. I was gonna
Sure.
speak to where we're at as far as rolling the program out.
Yeah.
Because we're in kind of a fluid situation with a couple of things right now.
Yeah.
But single stream recycling will be starting in the 1st of July or the 1st
Okay.
of July, the 7th actually of July. So, but there's some other fluid things that I want to be accurate with the information. Hopefully I have that for next Wednesday night.
Okay.
And a quick update on the $3.85 million dewatering project. So I don't want to take up a lot of time, just quick. Because it's going to, I think with budget night and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. I was going to speak a little more to this.
Yeah, well, those are really important.
Yeah.
Updates.
You know, I think that's gonna be a welcome conversation to have before all the budget stuff.
Is there anything else that either of you would want to say? Nothing that you need to say. We clearly.
Well, I think everyone had input. I mean, Athena did a lot of the research going to other communities and whatnot. She did most of the heavy lifting on this, so I thank her. With everyone else's schedules, she's been a savior, helping put this together or putting it together. But the Swiffer team has worked very hard behind the scenes. As we know, there's a pretty large soft, what they call a soft match, 800,000 in 3 years, but what comes along with that is a lot of hard work behind the scenes at different times, different parts of the day, even of the week, or whatnot.
Weekend.
So, and yeah, some weekend stuff, depending on what it is. So I wanted to thank the Swiffer team myself personally.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know that there was debate early on and there was such a complex issue. I think what occurs to me right now is like the revamping of the recycling, regardless if it was, regardless of single, dual, whatever, like the fact that all this energy that's being invested right now, that you all are investing and the team is investing, is a really good thing, like to get people on board and to train people to do this. And so I'm really grateful for that.
We needed an updated ordinance. Yeah.
Mhm.
And thank you and everybody on this council for your input,
And this
diligence and readiness.
it was almost like the Swiffer grant gave us the opportunity to update
Yeah.
the trash piece. of
Yes,
it.
sure.
There's stuff in here from the transfer station and you get new flyers from us right now. And we thought it was important to get the do's and don'ts of the transfer station updated from what, 25 years ago? I think that this
Yeah,
is,
it was
so,
ancient.
there's been a lot of change at the transfer station in 25 years, so. It'll hopefully be more helpful, updating our information so the public is a little less confused.
Yep.
Reading out of the ordinance is like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So.
Well, this is great. Thank you.
That's really appreciated.
Yeah.
I might not be around in 25 years when it's time to do it again. Me too.
Yeah, in the backyard, but say everything about it.
But thank you for your support also, and always the council support. I always truly appreciate that. So.
Great. So, ready for votes?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So solid waste is the name of the ordinance, right?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Golub, yes.
Great.
Thank you.
All
See
right.
you all next week.
See you
But
next-
we have to go to single stream in person once it gets voted. Once it gets voted, we have to go single stream.
Yeah, it's a lot.
In July.
It's a lot,
It's the law.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Have a
Taking the
good
time to
day.
come here two
Yeah.
times in a row.
Exactly. Okay, so
On our agenda.
that is our agenda. Next time we will re-engage. Next time we will re-engage our thorough conversation of the ordinances of Greenfield and,
Wow, fun.
yes, yeah, but not tonight.
Yeah.
I could be hired out as a consultant.
It's good to know that with this vast budget of the Greenfield City Council.
Athena's got to be here.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, I chose not to put that on today's agenda, given that we are in budget season and we weren't gonna put anything onto the May agenda anyhow, so please come prepared. Please come prepared for discussion about ordinances next month. And the next meeting will be on June 11th, 2025, 6:30 PM, City Hall Meeting Room, second floor, Zoom hybrid, unless otherwise posted. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Golub, yes. All right.
Got the time?
We are adjourning this meeting at 7:33 and a half.
3.5. It's going in the notes.
All right.
It has. Thanks,
Gotta-
Where we're
everybody.
at, it's where we're at, liminal space.
Yeah.
All right.
Good
Good
night.
night.
All right, guys. Good night, City.